Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you a bear market fractal pattern that could potentially give us some insight as to where Ethereum could be headed into the next few months. So if you guys enjoy the content, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Also consider checking out our sponsors over at ftx.us. You can check them out in the link in the description below. And by signing up with my referral code SNOWYCRYPTO, you can get a 5% discount on your exchange fees. It's a great exchange. I highly recommend them. All right, so let's dive into the charts here. Today, I'm just going to be showing you a pattern that I'm seeing today that very closely resembles the price action all the way back in the prior cycle. So I'm just going to be going step by step in terms of what I'm seeing here and why it's similar to the previous cycle and where potentially we could be in terms of the grander market cycle. So these are going to be based off of these key support levels. This first one being the support level between $1,600 and $1,800. That is the support level for this market cycle, and I'm going to be comparing that to the previous market cycle support level between $150 and $175. Okay, so first let's just talk about what we had following the break of this level. So in the prior cycle, you can see we formed that peak there in the green circle, and you can see that closely resembles what we had right here. And then after that, what we did was we came back down, we retested the support level. Okay, so we had the peak followed by a retest. Same thing here in 2021. And then what happens is you get a second peak similar to the previous peak, and you have essentially a double topping pattern. You come down, you consolidate a little bit, and then you form the final peak, the all-time high. And then following that, you get a drop back down to a lower low, and then you form a lower high as well. So you get that pattern where you have the peak, the big decline, and then the dead cat bounce up higher. So we had the same thing back in April of 2022, and then you come back down and you retest the support level one time before ultimately you capitulate below, you form a lower low, and then what's happening today is that we're coming back up and retesting this level. So you can see that's similar to what we had back in January of 2019, where after we formed the low around $80, we came back up, retested this area, flipped it into resistance, and corrected back down. All right, so we could be experiencing a similar thing today with the current low around $800. We're up 2x off of these lows back up into the resistance. And again, it's the same thing where even if you were to say take a percentage of the current move with respect to the previous cycle, what you would get is it was a 100% move off of the lows into resistance. So here in the prior cycle, we went from 80 to 160, which is 100%. And it's the same thing here in this cycle where 880 all the way up to 1760, another 100% move from this low back up into the resistance point. Now, obviously, this is just a fractal pattern. We could very well break this structure today and not look back. But one of the things I like to do is just speculate, what if the pattern were to continue? What would that look like if we were to say repeat this and then have a similar structure continue? And what we can do here is that we can actually take a bar pattern of the previous cycle's price action. So I'm going to be taking a bar pattern basically 1 year out from the break of the horizontal level that was previously support. All right, so let's just make this to scale real quick. That's not what I wanted. All right, so here we have this to scale. I'm going to drag this over, and you can see it does pretty much fit to where we are, basically the big decline followed by the 2x back up into resistance. And you can see that if we were to continue this pattern, if the fractal is to be consistent, then we would be retesting this level all the way into the middle of 2023. So that just goes to show you and gives you a little bit more perspective as to how long bottoming patterns can actually take. And it's important not to get your expectations up too high because, you know, all the way back in the last cycle, we had the bottom in December of 2018 at $80. And even 2 years later, we had a retest at $90. So it took a very long time for this to actually play out. And my point here is that even if the bottom is in, you still have plenty of time to accumulate. So if that is something that you're worried about, definitely don't stress on that because, again, we do have a lot of time and we could be potentially coming back down to this level and we could possibly form a higher low if this pattern is to repeat itself. Again, that's essentially what we did all the way back in 2019. We had this first initial low coming back up and then forming a higher low, and some sort of uptrending structure where eventually we broke out of the resistance. So again, if something were to happen again, something similar, we would have a low, maybe a correction back down to say $1,200, for example, and then forming some sort of uptrend where eventually we would actually flip this into support later down the line towards the end of this year. And again, it's not necessarily to say this has to happen. It's just giving you an example of what has happened in the past as a possibility of what you could expect. So if you're not prepared and you're not patient enough to wait for this to play out for the next several months, then I would say you're not doing yourself any favors. Okay, so that is one of the things you should consider. It is going to take a while for a bottom to develop, even if the bottom is already in. And with this fractal pattern, obviously, we could have several different iterations. You can see these still vary pretty significantly in terms of what we experience. For example, this peak here, this all-time high in November, was far less extended from these two peaks that we had. So there could be several iterations play out where potentially we come back down, form a double bottom, maybe we have a higher low, any number of possibilities, but the general takeaway here is that it will take a long time for a bottom to play out. We could have several months ahead of us of consolidation and general ranging before ultimately breaking this very strong resistance level, flipping it into support, and then potentially leading up into another bull run. So overall, I hope you guys did enjoy this analysis. If you have any comments, suggestions, or feedback, please do leave those below. Also, remember to check out our partners over at ftx.us. Thank you to them for being our partners, and thanks to you guys for supporting the channel and sticking around. I hope you guys did enjoy, and as always, I will see you in the next one.